And here I was thinking we would have the best looking podcast, video cast ever because you wouldn't be in it.
You know, the absence of ugly does not make beautiful.
That was good. And fuck you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 481 of the Dead Robot Society. I'm Terry Mixon. Joining me, Paul E. Cooley. How you doing, man?
I'm doing fabulous.
You look fabulous.
I look fabulous. I feel
You look
fabulous. I feel so fab. Doing well, man. Getting ready to pack up and head to Colorado to see the relatives. So they were kind enough to send us plane tickets.
Always a plus.
Yeah, always a plus. Like, I want to come see you guys every quarter. Then the quarter comes and plane tickets show up. Isn't a hint. Get your ass up here. Okay, fine.
That's awesome. I hope you have a blast.
It's going to be cold. We're probably going to see more snow here tomorrow than I'll see the entire time I'm in Colorado.
Which part of Colorado you're going to?
Westminster. North.
Okay. I have no idea where that is, but is it anywhere near Colorado Springs?
Colorado Springs is 80, 90 miles south.
It's where two of my stepkids live with their families in Colorado Springs. They keep bugging me to come visit, but they won't send me plane tickets.
Oh,
I know, it's awful.
It's a rough life.
So I hear you finished a book. Congratulations.
I did. Thank you. 133,000 words.
It's almost 150.
And that's not even anywhere close to 150.
It's only a novella away.
It's less than a novella away.
It's almost a short story away.
It's a long short story. It's a novelette away from being 150,000 words.
Okay, it's all right, man. It's okay. You still got a long way to go before you catch up with Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, thank God. I as much as we like to bitch about it, I have a lot of respect for those guys who can and gals who can come up with these elaborate storylines and write it all down and have it done in one book and have the discipline to take however long it takes to get that done and keep all that crap straight in their heads, because I don't know how they do it. Then again, I'm not getting paid $2 million advances either, so.
Is that how much Brandon Sanderson gets paid? A $2 million advance?
I don't know. I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass. At least I admit it on air. Yeah, I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm willing to admit it. I think it's just kind of funny when, you see some of these authors, they get these advance deals and it's like, yeah, but that's for like 8 books. But, think about that. You're sitting on your ass with 8 books. Yeah, I've got 8 books to write in 3 or 4 years, but I have money that entire time to pay my bills. So
I don't know that that's actually a plus, because when you've got something guaranteed, then your ass wants to slack off. If you got to be hungry,
well, this is true.
Pay the rent. You better be doing something.
That's the theory, anyway.
That's the theory. I need to take that theory to heart so I can finish the damn book that I'm working on.
I need to take that theory to heart so I can get Trident and QPD done in the next 2.5 months. But first, Destruction's going through its paces. I've got Alpha Reader going through it, looking for continuity checks, and I'm going to start my own read through probably Wednesday, so I can figure out what I can drop immediately, and then connect with the Alpha Reader and say, hey, can we get rid of this? Can we get rid of that? And probably she'll be sending me stuff going, hey, this chapter doesn't need to exist. I'll be like, but yes, it does. And because it has this and that in it, and that's important. Figure out another way to say it. Fuck. So that's pretty much going to be my life for probably the next 2 weeks. And then we'll hand it off to the beta readers and let them plow through it for a couple weeks. So we're going to take our time on this one, especially since it closes out the trilogy. But I mean, I would love to have it out there tomorrow, but it is nowhere near ready yet. But the day I stopped or I finished it, I started Derelict Trinity. Or Trident. I started the next book already in the series.
Good plan.
So now I'm working on 2 novels at once. But I know exactly what happens in one of them. I just don't know what happens in the other. So I really want to write the other one.
I can tell you what happens to the other one. Nothing good.
Nothing good. Nothing good. People die. But you know, I'm pretty excited about you know, getting to the end of this milestone, and so we moved freaking forward. I just now have a buttload of recording to do. So
Talk faster.
talk faster. Yeah, talk faster. Problem is, while you're recording, Terry, you cannot do anything else. Nothing else. There's no multitasking. You cannot do anything. You can't listen to music. You can't listen. You can't have TV going on in the background. You can't have Netflix and YouTube running. You can't have any distractions.
How long is it going to take you to do the audio for 133,000 words?
I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be at least 48 to 60 hours of work.
Damn.
So, and of course, what, 10? Well, no, 12 hours of that is narrating. So,
Wait, you think you're going to talk it straight through one time? I think you better up that count a little bit.
That's
130,000 words. I know that 85 to 90,000 words for me ends up being between 10 and 11 hours, finished hours.
Mm-hmm.
So 133,000, I think you better be edging towards 20. This is going to be 17, 18 hours of narration, even if you don't screw up. So
no, it's going to be, it'll be 17 to 18 hours of well, probably 22 hours of narration with flubs.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. With the flubs, it's going to bump it even higher. But when you're all said and done, you're still going to be close to 20 hours of finished product.
Nah.
I bet you.
Nah.
You talk fast.
Otherwise,
then.
Outbreak would have been a lot longer than it was. But actually, what Tomb came in at 102, and Tomb is just now finishing the podcast feed, so it's got two more episodes, I think, three more episodes, and then Tomb is done, and it started rolling off, I guess, in June or May. I don't remember. 33 episodes roughly is what it came out to. So this one is Destruction will probably be like 45, 50 episodes.
Hell, you pretty much got 2018 locked up.
Yeah, well, 2018 is going to be locked up between Destruction and Gears Inferno. So, you know, Destruction probably start in March and run concurrently with Gears Inferno. So, yeah, 2018, I don't need to do another damn thing for the podcast besides do what I've been doing, just getting on there, babble, toss the episode together in 5 minutes and push it out there. So
there you go.
And then hopefully by then Trident will be out and maybe the QPD. So we'll see. QPD will be fun though. I'm so looking forward to that. Quantum personality disorder. It's going to be
nothing
so
could
fun.
Possibly go wrong.
It's going to be so much fun. So what the hell is going on with you, man?
Contractor hell still, just getting things done. All that's left is the downstairs flooring, which will take approximately a week to get done, and the AC ducts. Although I think I'm going to add in another day and a half of getting some sheetrock that's been problematic taken out and replaced once the AC ducting is done. Then it'll be finished. So it should be wrapped up. All except that last bit of sheetrock will be wrapped up this month. The rest of it probably in the next week thereafter. First week of February.
Okay.
So hopefully I'm planning to get Terra done this week. I'm already sitting at 70,000 words on this novel, and I'm targeting 85. So it should be doable for me to finish this book in the next week, even with the contractors downstairs tearing out everything. If I lock myself in the room here with the cats, I certainly won't have anywhere to go. So maybe that will help me get something accomplished here. As I was saying before we started recording, they're not even making it to Terra. I have determined that it's not happening.
So you need to rename it to Side Trip Before Terra. Something funny happened on the way to Terra.
Attack of the Terran Squirrels.
That's what it needs to be called. Something funny happened on the way to Terra. That'd be such a great call out to some classic literature. That'd be hilarious.
I know. But the plot line at the end took a surprising turn for me. And
what, people died? People died? Terry, did you kill some? Did your balls drop and you killed somebody?
I killed a bunch of bad guys, or actually I had a bunch of bad guys commit suicide rather than talk.
Terry, come on, man. At some point.
This is how I roll. This is what my readers expect of me.
Look, I started letting some of my characters live because I kept getting told by you, of all people, and nobody wanted to get attached to people when they knew you were going to slit their throat. The problem is you have to slit throats occasionally.
I'm not convinced that this is true. Not convinced this is true at all.
Oh, my little optimistic special snowflake.
That's me. That's why I'm labeled a little special snowflake. But seriously, I think I'm going to keep the name the Terra Gambit, because the whole idea of this novel was them to try to go to Terra, and every single thing that could possibly go wrong on the way to Terra has pretty much gone wrong and sidetracked them.
Perfect.
But they now have a time limit. They are separated from their fleet. They have a time limit that they have to get to Terra in, or bad things will happen to them.
So they're on, like you said, they're on a clock.
They're on a clock, but they have to make a stop somewhere on the way there to Terra, because somebody else they have to interact with someone that is not their friend in order to get the timer extended to give them enough time to get to Terra.
Okay. So
dealing with the pit stop, if you will, is probably where I'll end the book. Gotcha. So 15,000 words, I should be able to make the ending happen. Of course, it's going to be a much rougher pit stop than they expected. In fact, things will probably go horribly wrong.
Probably go horribly wrong?
Probably Definitely go horribly wrong. Pretty much. I'll tell you about it after we record the intro, but things are probably going to go terribly wrong for them.
Perfect.
Man, this novel has just been nothing but, like, at chapter 2, I think I introduced a major element that sidetracked them from leaving for Terra. And then more things happened that caused them to be delayed in leaving from Terra. Then they left for Terra, and the first place they went to that was supposed to be just a short stop ended up just sending them scurrying like crazy with problems going left field. And it's not gotten any better. So maybe I'm worried because I took a break in the middle of this book. It just feels like I'm dragging this out, but maybe I'm not. I'm going to have to wait till my beta readers tell me if I've gone too far and it feels like I've just,
just said, fuck it.
I don't want to be that guy, but
we don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy either, which is why I'm so worried about what I did in Destruction. You don't want to be the guy that's like, okay, now the story's completely jumped the shark and the entire audience is pissed and throwing tomatoes at you and hunting you with pitchforks. You don't want to be that guy.
I think it's going to be okay, because I think that the side trip that I put in for them at the beginning half of this novel is one that they'll appreciate, but it's not the most active side trip.
Okay.
It's a development sidetrack. So this may be one where they say, oh, this is another one of Terry's 2 tower novels. It's a bridge between something and something else. It may be true.
You sometimes have to have that, though, if you're telling a really, really long, drawn out tale. I was thinking about that today. There's a novel I want to write and may need to write for the Soul and Beyond, but it's going to be heavy on the politics. It's going to be heavy on court intrigue and that kind of thing. It's not going to have much action to it at all. So, but it is one of those stories I kind of want to tell because it's important to how the Soul Federation came into being and why it's run the way it is. So it would be interesting to write that, but I don't know if there's an audience for it. I don't know.
Like I said,
I'm not as witty and talented as J.D. Sawyer. He could probably make a politics book. In fact, he has. Interesting, but I don't think I could do it.
God, I can only imagine. No, I'm not going to go there. That's scary shit. I don't want to go there.
Yeah, me as president.
I would go there. I would totally elect you president.
Oh, wow. You don't know me very well, do you?
All I have to do is compare you to the current crop of potentials, and I am happy to go that route.
Plus, the media could ask me every morning, Mr. Cooley, have you taken your meds? Yes, I've taken my meds. Fuck off.
Oh, come on. We've already proven, this is totally sidetracked here anyway, but we've already proven that you could then drop the F-bomb as much as you like in the Oval Office.
Oh yeah. I no longer have to, watch my potty mouth. That's pretty much the norm now. But yeah. Anyway,
I haven't checked on them, but all of my print-on-demand books should be out.
yay.
So I still haven't gotten 2/3 of them linked to the actual Kindle books yet, but they're out there. And it's probably not going to happen while the internet is down. So
No,
yeah,
probably not.
I don't trust Amazon is going to actually make, the magic happen without being poked with an email.
Yeah, I would just go ahead and poke them with emails.
Yeah.
See what
Donna would normally do that part. She's already packed her computer though. It's out in the garage. So that shit ain't happening.
Oh, well, it'll get done.
It is what it is. At least the work of it is done.
Yeah.
And I got to say that, using the Vellum product is pretty damn easy. It would be a lot simpler if she didn't insist on customizing and making custom front and back matter.
Okay.
If I just used what came with the damn book, with the program, that sucker would be done in about 20 minutes. It would be ready. My end of creating it would be done, but it takes her hours to create and do all her nonsense with the front and back matter and getting it uploaded and create space and isbins and Boker and blah, 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 blah. She gets all crazy about it.
Perfect.
But it's done.
Yay. Move on.
Oh, I should mention there's another secret project on the horizon.
Ruh-roh.
I wouldn't tell you, what it is because it's a secret.
Well,
I bet you can guess.
Let me put on my prognostication cap. Is it a project with an author you have written something for before?
Why, it indeed is.
Okay, then. I know who it is.
But I haven't signed the paper yet. I have the contract in my hand. I just need to, wait till we get her printer set back up so we can print it and I can sign it and fax it back to him. But the language is agreed upon, so I guess I could talk about it. I'm going to be signing a contract with Glenn to produce a trilogy following the duology that we already did.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's coming up. I just have to print it out so I can sign it.
Go to the freaking FedEx store or or Best Buy or whatever. Go in there and use their printer. And
he's not in a rush. He's under a deadline of his own, and we haven't even started discussing the detailed outline yet. So there's no pressure on this. The contract will be signed, and then we'll start in a month or so, start picking at trying to narrow down the exact storyline that we're going to be looking at telling. We haven't even really discussed how the writing is going to take place, whether something like I'm going to write half of it, he's going to write half of it, alternating chapters, God only knows. We haven't discussed that yet. So since this isn't reworking something he's already written, this is new territory for me. I'm interested to see what we come up with.
Oh boy. The fun and the fun and the fun.
Speaking of fun, we should probably go ahead and get to the episode meat itself.
The episode meat? And what might that be, Terry?
I have no idea. I've already forgotten.
You've already forgotten?
I did. I got sidetracked by the news that came in during the show, and I've forgotten what we're talking about.
Expansion.
Expanding what?
How do you expand your universe?
Oh, how do you grow your universe?
Yeah.
That's true. See, that's one of the problems with recording the intro a week after we do the talking about it. It can be completely out of my head, and I'm already, your absent-minded professor.
To be honest, I have to look at my notepad and see what we did last week. So you're not alone.
Have you considered, starting to tell me outrageous things that we never talked about? So that we could do an intro and I could just say these outrageous things.
Terry,
no.
I'm editing this episode. That whole 5-minute diatribe you did about Tijuana. I don't know if we can put that in the show. And you're like, what story about Tijuana?
God, it's only 8 letters. Only 8 letters.
That whole thing you did in the army with that mule, that's just wrong.
You know, that could be the same 8 letters if you just go about it the wrong way.
On that note, let's get into the show, shall we?
Please, let's get in there fast.
The faster the better.
Paul, when you started writing Derelict, you had a book in mind, and then suddenly it ballooned into a decology. So how did you expand that out to fit a decology? How did you do that?
Decology. At least I don't think it'll be a decology.
That's what you say now.
I honestly don't know for sure. I honestly don't know how long it's going to be. Okay. For those of you that don't know and weren't here when this mess started, the original idea for Derelict was one book, about 80, 90,000 words, just to get something out there while I was working on Signal Decay and get something in December Press and another audiobook out and everything else. About a month and a half into it, I suddenly realized they were barely going to make it to Pluto in that book. I had so much more to say than I thought I did about setting things up and dealing with the characters and everything else that I realized that I could not possibly cover everything I wanted to do in that one book. It wasn't going to work. So looking back on it now with hindsight, I should have just kept writing, but it is what it is. So I knew what I wanted to happen, and I started to know more about what I wanted to happen on the other side, because there were things I just hadn't considered. And the more I wrote about them, the more there were other things I wanted to talk about. So I had to set everything up and go forward from there. Now, the idea was to end this with cataclysmic crazy on Mira, and that was going to be the end of the book.
Second book, we're still stuck on Mira.
Yes, we're still stuck on Mira. Actually, we're not. 100, let's see, it was 83,000 plus 108,000, so that's 211,000 words. And we're now at 127. So combine all that together, and we're finally approaching where I originally envisioned we would be at the end of book 1. So that said, how did I expand it? I expanded it by writing it. The idea that you have for a book and the idea for the story sometimes can be so much more, have so much more depth than you thought. And like I said, Derelict was just supposed to be shoot 'em up monster book, get it out there, my first, deep space sci-fi title, and try and make something that would appeal to folks who are like me and love things like Dead Space and whatnot. They have science fiction and horror put together in them. I wanted to write that. I just wanted to write that because I think it'd be fun. And as we kept going into it, the more and more I wanted to talk about things. I didn't envision the addition of the AIs to the thing. I didn't see what was going to happen with their original intentions. There was no way to get across what I wanted to ultimately get across. So how did I expand it? Well, in these 3 books, I have come up with a lot of questions that can't be answered where they are. There's no way to answer these questions on their current mission. Therefore, it's going to require at least one more book for them to find out what the hell is going on. They'll have some answers, and they'll have even more questions when I'm done with this book. So expanding the universe was just a matter of, I'd already set the universe up to have other books written in it. But for the series, expanding the series or expanding it into a series, it was finally realizing that I just could not, there was no way to impart the information to the characters that I need them to discover. There was no way for them to discover it where they were. That means they have to go somewhere else. And I want the readers to have those answers because I want to have those answers.
So you don't really know the answers until you get there.
I know what they did. I know why they did it. Whether or not things go completely out of control from what the people who or the things that created this mess, whether or not they forecast it properly is a completely different animal. But the bottom line is there were reasons why things are the way they are. We have a lot of suspicions, but we will not find out definitively. And some things we'll probably never find out. I know those things. I just don't
That's what
know
I was
how
asking. The
extensive the
second
damage
part
is
there,
going to be.
I was making sure that you knew where they are when they went along. So basically, you know the answers to these questions, and it's merely the process of getting to those that turns out to be longer than you anticipated.
Correct. Which means that there's more story. And if when you're in that position, I think when you have those kind of unanswered questions, you can have a story end, I think, and leave some things open, unanswered. There are things that you want the reader to wonder about because the characters are wondering about them. But there comes a point where you, as the writer, get so interested in what the answers are to those questions that you want to keep writing. So with the third book in the Mirror trilogy, I guess this is what I'm calling it, with Destruction being the last book in that, it will tie up everything that they were doing and they were sent out there for. And then we'll deal with the aftermath of what happened. And the aftermath is going to be even more fun for me as a writer than the 3 books before that. It's going to be a lot more fun.
I know that basically I asked that question having a fair guess at what your answer was going to be. And I run into that same thing with every book that I write. This latest book being a particularly good example of it. When I started writing it, I had an idea of where I wanted the story to end. And so many things occurred on the way to the ending of that book that the ending of that book is not happening. Not in this book. It's just not, there's no way that I can make it happen. In fact, I think I probably derailed them from going where they thought they were going.
Change the title.
Oh, I don't know. I think the title is still good. It is still the Terran Gambit. There's still, or maybe it's the Terra Gambit. I'm not sure. I guess it would have to be just the A in there because their goal is still to get to Terra. But along the way, there's a little bit of complication that's going to send them probably veering far off course.
Is it just me or is there always a complication?
Pretty much there's always a complication. In this book, there's basically, I just derailed them pretty much at chapter 2, and they never really recovered from that. So it's that way with every book. I start writing it. I've got a good idea of where I think I'm going to go with the story. And on the way to the market, bad things happen. And suddenly the ending is that much further away. And I never can really judge how far out what I should put the goal is, because I'm always more, I think I'm going to get further in the book than I actually get. It happens every single time.
Okay, but did you set your universe up to do that?
No. It's just the way I write.
No. It's just the way you write. Okay. So you are pantsing so far out there. It's just absolutely hilarious to me. Because I realized finally that till I actually got on paper what was going to happen or what I needed to happen to get these things apart or imparted to the characters and the reader, until I actually mapped it out, I wasn't able to do it. And then once I saw it on paper, digital paper, so to speak, I was able to adjust it. And then as I was writing, I was able to tweak it. Oh, I can drop this. Oh, I can drop that. That's slowing down the story. Fit this in there instead, and still be able to get the information where it needed to go and get the action in there. So it wasn't just like one huge briefing. So, everybody's got a little time to themselves to do the sequel stuff and think about what they've just been through. And then when we get to the end of the book, people are going to be like, what in the fuck just happened? And it will be a lot of fun. And it'll be, it'll close up the way it's supposed to close up to, like a normal series would. However, if it sells well enough and people like it, then I'll write another book. But I think I'm going to write this next book anyway, regardless of how well this one sells, because I want to know this shit. I want to know exactly how it went down.
The more books you have in a series,
I want to know.
The better the series will do. That's the way it works.
Yes. And this goes back to, and I've seen this, and Terry's been championing it. He's not the only one, that the only way to make your previous book sell better is to put out a new one. So if I can crank these out faster, and I think I can, because part of the problem with writing Derelict was just how closed an environment it is. And there's only certain things you have to face. And we need more interaction with human beings. So I'm looking forward to actually being around other people and having new characters to F with.
That's one of the ways that you write your books in a very closed environment, to deprive your characters of the contact of the outside world. And so your readers, they know that they're going to be focused in on these few characters, and the bigger world doesn't really matter, because it's going to be very, very close in on what's happening to these poor bastards that you've stuck wherever you've stuck them. Whereas I envision my plots more like in a pool hall, you're playing billiards and you've got the balls lined up and you're hitting the balls. And suddenly, in the midst of the ball heading towards where the pocket where you think it's going to go, a fight breaks out at the next table, and the guy gets knocked over into your table, and the balls go flying everywhere. And basically, that ball could be anywhere when it's done. That's how it works.
Yeah. I could have written like 5 more books about SNR Black, just missions that they've done in the past, right before Derelict or after Derelict, whatever. I could have just kept hanging out with this crew and kept them bouncing from book to book. The new problem that's going on in the Soul and Beyond verse or in the system. I could have kept doing that for several books. And if I hadn't had the idea for Derelict, maybe that's exactly what would have happened. Is just a search execution sitting out there watching as their solar system starts to expand, problems, new AI difficulties, all that kind of stuff would have been fascinating to me. And I still may write those books. But the characters and the conceit of what I had was powerful enough that I could have gone that route with these characters. I could have done that. And it would have been, each book would have been self-contained, story of the week, kind of, monster of the week, whatever, rescue mission of the week kind of thing, just like the TV series do, and make that into an 80,000 word book. It would have been very easy to do several of those. And I think that's, when you have those kinds of stories in mind, I think it's really great to let them go where they are, or let them go where they do, but don't be afraid of setting yourself up to continue, especially if you really love those characters and you didn't kill them all.
Oops.
So yeah, let's see. In the Black, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about the Black series, how many people make it out, but the people who did make it out are the ones I need to keep going. Stop that. Killing one of my red shirts the other night and realized that I couldn't do it. I needed that red shirt just a little bit longer. So there's a certain Fiendling / DRS podcast fan who's going to be pissed when we get to the end of this book. So
you're like, what? Where's my body?
You're going to be pissed. So I think that's how you know whether or not to continue on is how excited you are about seeing more a scenario that you can use them for, a story idea that you get while you're writing the book. I think that's perfect. I think that's a wonderful thing, as long as you make sure you've set the threads up.
One of the things that really derailed this book when I started is I brought in a new character at the beginning of the novel that came in out of left field. All the seeds for this character, the hints that this was even a possibility, were laid out books ago. But I decided it was time to actually do this character. And that literally took up the next third of the book. trying to get that character settled in with everyone else. So that totally derailed where the characters thought they were going, but it shook up the deck of who went on this mission. And so I've got not a different set of characters than I envisioned, but a +1. We'll just say it. I've got a +1 in there.
A +1
with this character. And so where I am in the book now should have been basically the middle of the book. Instead, here I am wrapping up the finale. So yeah, and I got to say that taking a break in the middle of this book to go ahead and finish off the work I did with Glenn did really set me back. It's really hard for me to get back into this book. I've lost my momentum in it, and sitting down and writing it is hard because the construction has really damaged my ability to really get a roll going. So I've just not really re-embedded myself in this story. And that's hard. It's a good story. Now we're going to have to see if the beta readers go, yeah, maybe you did something bad here. We'll see. There's not as much, I won't say there's not as much action as in some of the other books, but the action's more subdued than in some of the other books. So they may say it's slow. They may say it's a Two Towers, that's a bridge novel. It may end up being that. I don't know. But it certainly leaves a lot of potential things going forward that I can really do to mess some people up.
I think that's another one of the problems we kind of face in creating a series like that. Issue where you have these throwaway episodes. You have throwaway books that you need to write that will actually allow the series to expand forward. And I think trying to find a way to make them interesting when there's not these huge space battles or whatever else go on, that's when you maybe need to add some subplots that maybe have some of that stuff in there.
The problem with that, for me anyway, is because, say, the first third to almost half the book was integrating an unexpected person into the order of business and trying to get things working from there. As soon as they got forward in going out to actually complete the mission, I've started introducing a lot more complications than there were. But they may say the first half of this book is slow. And if so, they may be justified in saying that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
And I'll just have to reap the consequences of that.
Well, you have to go back and are you familiar with Fred Saberhagen's The Berserkers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for those of you who don't know, Fred Saberhagen invented this, would you call them a race?
I wouldn't. They're a construct.
They're a construct. You want to put it that way? Essentially they are extremely smart and deadly AIs. Mm-hmm. For all practical purposes. They have built themselves into huge ships. They've been put into cars, literally into cars, all those kinds of things. And he wrote a ton of short stories and several books that feature them in there. And I don't remember exactly, maybe the Cylons were originally based on the Berserkers. I don't remember. But had you never considered that?
I hadn't considered that, but that's possible.
It's very possible. The original 1979 or whatever it was, Battlestar Galactica is what I'm talking about. But the basis for and the reason he was able to do that is I don't remember there ever being a trip to the Berserker homeworld. I don't remember there ever being a truly historical account of how they came to be. Maybe I just missed it, but I don't remember seeing one.
I don't either, but that may be because I've only read some of the Berserker stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, for me as a reader, that made it much more mysterious. They kind of became the Borg there, only they were just like bent on just utter destruction. They destroyed pretty much everything in their path. And which was that's how I remember it anyway. I haven't looked it up in a very long time. But the fact is that doesn't have any political stuff to it. It's essentially a zombie apocalypse with machines.
Sure.
I mean, I guess that's the plainest way to put it. Therefore, you're talking about the characters and how they deal with it. But he left that universe open that way as an attempt to find answers, I guess, to some of these questions. Or maybe it was just to write some badass action novels with some really crazy combat. But it was a really good conceit, and it outlived. Remember it? Huge, science fiction fan back when I was reading those books. The fact that I remember that means that it stuck with me. And that means after 32 years, it's still bouncing around my skull. So whatever he did it right. But I think that if you're not planning on writing a series, but you get to the end of the book or toward the middle of the book and realize that maybe this isn't the end for these characters, then you can start playing with some things. And maybe you don't figure it out till you're done with the book. And then also maybe you need to take a time out and talk with some people before you decide you're going to continue it. It just kind of depends. I think it's really hard to really beat the ever living shit out of characters to the point where they're like, in comas, and then kind of write another book 3 months later about how they come out of it and everything else. When they're just obviously just resurrected to tell this other story. So I think that's kind of a hard thing to get past, but that doesn't mean I'm above doing it. I think when you have to go to that lengths just to tell another story and they're just convenient for it, I think that's when you realize you've maybe jumped the shark and gone down a wrong path.
I think if you're writing the novel and you get towards the end and it feels unfinished, that maybe subconsciously you've got an idea of events that transcribe out beyond the scope of what you originally envisioned. That's the point where you have to sit back and say, okay, if this isn't going to be the ending, what's the new ending? Because you've got to reevaluate.
If this isn't going to be the ending to these characters, what is the new ending for this arc, this book, before you take them into the next one?
Or if you're 2/3 of the way through the book and you get to the point you realize that your end game that you originally envisioned is not happening, before you just keep stumbling into the dark, you have to sit back and go, where's the new end game? Where do I got to go from this? Because if you're just walking through the novel with your arms out like this, trying to feel the walls, then it's going to feel like you're out there wandering around. Maybe that's part of my problem is I feel like I'm wandering around the end of this novel looking for the end.
Okay. Yeah. I think I had some of the same problems. I've had some of the same problems before, and I think in some ways I had the same problems with Derelict. Yeah, when you don't know exactly where the walls are of the story, it makes it rather difficult to find the end because you keep bumping into walls and furniture and whatever else is lying around, cats,
Or you think you're at the end of the wall and you reach out and there's still nothing there, and you're like,
yeah.
Now I'm a little bit nervous about stepping forward. I don't know what's out there.
Lou Antonelli, he basically plagiarized Dashiell Hammett. Instead of, if it gets boring, have somebody pull a gun, is what Dashiell Hammett used to say. Mm-hmm. And Antonelli says, if you're bored, throw a tomato. Have somebody throw a tomato. It's the same kind of thing. When something is going wrong, then you really have a chance to give the reader something fun to notice or move your characters along, because sometimes it's difficult to make them move when you want them to move or when they need to be moving.
Yeah, I'd say probably about chapter 22 or 23 in this novel, after I've gotten the new character settled in and them on their mission, is where I started throwing tomatoes at the characters. I probably should have started throwing them earlier, and we'll see what my beta readers suggest that I might do to spice up the first half a little bit, introduce a little bit more complexity to it, which unfortunately may delay the release of this novel a couple of weeks if I have to go ahead and reorder some things. But if it does, it does. It's tough when you you write a novel and suddenly you're sidelined. There was a commercial that I can't remember what it was about, but it had a golfer there lining up his shot. Now he's got him with the driver, and suddenly a football player in full pads just comes in from off screen and takes him out.
Yeah,
and pretty much that's how the plot in this novel feels to me. It feels like the plot just came in from the sidelines and took me out, and I haven't recovered from it.
Oh boy. Well, it's funny because on my side of things, I did the same thing with the Black. Right, that was supposed to be a one-off, and then we got into, oh, I set this thread up, and now I have to follow that, which set this other thread up. All right, fine, we'll write 3 books and we'll be done. No, we're not done. I wanted to be done, but we're not done. There's going to have to be at least 2 more books. It just has to be. So again, I'm put in that situation where the series wasn't supposed to be a series. And I keep kind of finding that out as I write some of these books, is that there's more to say. There's more to say with these characters. There's more to say with these conceits, and I just need to follow them down. And the other thing that's driving, of course, is people like it. You know, but there are readers constantly bugging me. Where's the next Black book? Where's the next Derelict book? That means you've done something right. I mean, when people are basically sending you nasty grams about the fact that you haven't written another book in that series,
every day,
then you've got a loyal readership who are going to kick your ass if you don't, if you don't perform.
Have already begun.
Monkey. Yeah. I'm wanting to give you money, man.
Torches, get your torches here.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. We're going to avoid the torches. I'm going to avoid the torches. Anyway, I think there's when you have that and you've gotten to so many, books in the series and you're still excited about it, and keep going till you find the end.
Just keep,
of course, Terry insists
getting that end further out. Just keep moving that goalpost further out.
Well, see, now with the Black, I have so many characters I can kill off before I get to the core. So I can do lots of crazy shit. And I'm looking forward to doing that at some point. Maybe this year. Maybe this year I'll write Evolution. Maybe we'll get that done this year.
Yeah, I was on the Mythwits last night, and they were saying, Paul was supposed to kill us off at some point. I wonder if that ever happened.
You were on the Mythwits and what?
Mm-hmm. And they said, say, Paul was supposed to kill us off at some point. I wonder if that ever happened.
No, not yet. Not yet. They're in a book though. Well, they're in Evolution, but I haven't finished Evolution yet, so I haven't done anything nasty to them.
They should be like those ghost hunters, with their paranormal stuff, searching some house and being eaten by the Black. Can the spirits living here hear us?
I just thought of a way to put them in the next Derelict book. I'll have to ask them if it's okay to put them in the Derelict series, because I just had a fantastic idea for it.
There you go.
Fantastic. Anyway, yes. So see what you do. You just throw this in there, and now my brain went ding, which is usually how this works. This is why having a writer buddy is really good, because you inadvertently give each other ideas or solve problems without there ever being intentional to do that. So
it's a wonderful thing.
Yes, it is. I would say in my case, the expanding the universe kind of came as an accident, and expanding the series and it's all kind of accidental. It's not. I just hadn't planned for this. I just had not planned for this. Y'all kept telling me it was going to happen that way, and I just was like braying like a mule saying no. And then, the brain at some point just says, hey, dummy, there's a way to do this, but you need to you need to take these characters out of here. You got to solve this first. And so that's where we're going to, try and leave that as the solutions. Of course, me saying that, the guy who basically wrote book 1 left you on a cliffhanger, book 2 left you on a cliffhanger in mid-action, and then book 3 is going to sew everything up, but it's not going to sew everything up. But it'll be a much more
bastard.
Do what now?
Just a cliffhangering bastard.
I am a cliffhanger bastard. It will leave everybody in a known place. Everything will be good and cool and groovy, and I lie like a son of a gun. Anyway, so that's more or less how that works. But once I determined that I was going to build this out into a universe, I had already started planning that, laying that stuff down in Marines. So we know that there's, cybernetic implants. We know there's AIs, sentient AIs. We know that there's nanite technology. We know that there's some kind of thing called Atmo Steel, made by a company called Atmo, which is very, seems to be central to a lot of parts in this universe. All those things are connected. All of it's connected. And I wanted to cover that in other books, but Derelict is going to drive all of it now. So there may be some side novels or prequels in the future, but we'll talk about that later when it happens, because right now I just need to get this book done. So that's where things are.
It'll happen.
It'll happen.
It'll happen.
But when you go to the point where you're describing a culture's technology level, how they're managing commerce, their social things, are they sexually promiscuous? What kind of drugs? There's always going to be drugs. What kind of drugs are around? What do they eat? Go through all these things. What about the religious beliefs? When you go through all these things of inventing these cultures, have a chance to play with those in the stories. About to have absolutely nothing to do with the main characters of your story right now that you want to explore later with other folks. And that's how you end up doing these kinds of things. That's why there are prequels. That's why there are sidequels. That's why all this stuff exists. That's why people keep writing it. There are a couple of novellas in the Expanse series that have nothing to do with the main action, because they wanted to show something else that was going on. So it works. Spin-off shows. How many spin-off shows are you going to have from Empire of Bones?
At least one.
At least one, and it's prequel series, correct?
If I open up the universe to other writers, there's no telling what else may come out of it.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. I will have my eye on you, should you ever get there.
It'll happen.
Should you ever start actually keeping notes and building things about your world that you can share with other people?
That is a conflict, isn't it?
Story Bible. Get working on that.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
Yeah. That's what you should be doing instead of writing this, if you're getting bugged by the contractors. Sit down and work in your story Bible.
It could happen. I'm not looking forward to that, though. That sounds like a lot of work.
Wrote Empire of Bones, did you envision it as a series?
Say that again?
When you wrote Empire of Bones, you envisioned that as a series, correct?
I did. As an open-ended long series.
Has there ever been a book that you've written where you consciously weren't going to turn it into a series?
No.
Okay. Interesting. You're just a series whore.
I am. When a series comes along, I just can't help but bend over.
I'd scream phrasing, but what would be the point? Yeah. No phrasing needed there. Would you ever consider writing a book that's not intended for a series?
Consider it? Sure, I'll consider it. Then I'll ultimately reject it.
Why?
Because I know that when I write something about a set of characters, that I always want to see what happens next. That's always firmly in my mind, what happens next? Where do they go from here? Because one novel is never going to be enough. One ending is never going to be enough.
It's never going to be enough because you're too much of a wuss to kill your characters.
So true.
I have no problem with that.
Maybe that's the first thing I should spin off. I should have the Legless Coolie series.
The legless coolie series. Yeah, it'd be like Ironsides, only with a with the coolie in the wheelchair. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
Uh-huh. Yeah, we'll see how that turns out.
But don't worry, since the entire bottom half of your body was wiped out, you could have attachments.
Okay. So is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think that pretty much brings everything to a close.
I was about to say, where do we take the show after that statement? I don't know.
We take that exit before we get the little hoop that comes out and pulls us off stage.
Yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up.
Folks, if you have any ideas about taking your books from a single book to a longer series, go ahead and send us a note about it at show@deadrobotsociety.com. You can find Paul on Twitter at Paul_E_Cooley. You can find us on Facebook at the Listeners of the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. You can also find us on YouTube at youtube.com/DRS podcast. And of course, our patrons can support us at patreon.com/DRS podcast. And of course, we have to mention the good folks at podhoster.com who host all the audio episodes for your insanity. Paul, who are our patrons?
Well, this week's $10 Patreon patrons are Devin Lee, Robert Slade, Caleb, sometimes the letter Y sticks on my key, Nathan Petty, murderer of his characters. They had it coming. You stole that from me. Drew, Justice for Chuckles Bernardi. I just now realized what that's referring to. That's referring to the Black Arrival. That's hilarious. Good on you, Drew. John Kilgallen, Chris, Swagger, it stays this way, Winder. We need to have a discussion about swag. Isabel, my life is editing now, Cushy. Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, Jonathan Zarusin, and JR, I am permanently going to be a toe tag Handley. He did not write that, but I'm just saying.
You got a box full of toe tags for him.
Yeah, I got a box. Yeah. Junior Handley. It's going to happen.
Everybody's going to call him Junior before he dies. And he's like, what? That is not my name.
It's JR.
It's JR. Whatever, Junior.
Whatever, Junior. Love it. Oh, that's also going to work our Burdock. I just realized that.
It's true.
It is very true.
If you go ahead and put them both in there, you can have the Junior Mints.
Oh, that's bad. You should be ashamed of yourself. Will you get us out of here?
And with that horrible pun, we shall exit now and leave you to recover at your own pace. Thanks for joining us, folks. We really appreciate it.
Bye.